This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, the town of Lourdes refurbished historic railway station reopens to the public. Now in their 54th year, the Waimate Shears continue to be a success. And youngsters and adults turned an Ashburton field into a native reserve. Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te ahiahi nei, kia ora, I'm Simon Anderson. A newly refurbished railway station has been added to the Central Otago Rail Trail. Visitors can now stop at the Lourdes railway station and learn more about the region's recent and geological history.
After 8 years of fundraising and hard work by volunteers, this railway station has been restored and relocated to a new site along the Otago Central Rail Trail at Lourdes, some 25 kilometres northeast of Alexandra.
It's bringing the history back that was lost when the station was moved back in the 80s, when the whole train stations all went and everything disappeared off the trail. Now we've got this original building back and the memorabilia that's in there, and the explanations going right the way back to Lake Manihirakia, which is going to be quite enlightening for quite a few people, is just wonderful. Yeah.
Filled with information boards and even links to online videos, the building is set to share local history with visitors on the trail.
You want to slow down, relax and enjoy it, and there was no point going through here at 100 km an hour if you could bike that fast and not understand, you know, why the landscape's here, what the important stories are to the community, and giving an opportunity to A, people stop, B, to learn those stories. It's just really important.
The first actual tourists to make a stop at the refurbished station were a family from Wellington who were biking the rail trail.
Yeah, we're still on our way to Otago, but it was a nice stop in Lourdes. And it was pretty cool to see all the people out there, so it was a bit of a surprise when we got here and found out they just redone the railway station.
A lotteries grant was a major source of funding to help get the station's refurbishment over the line. In Lourdes, the South Today.
A steam-powered car from over 100 years ago was turning heads in South Dunedin over the weekend. Alan Familton and Leslie Colsell of Christchurch visited Dunedin with their Stanley Model 71 steam car. Built over 110 years ago, the model was not a success for the Stanley Company, with only 124 built between 1910 and 1911. The wood body is the smallest and lightest of the Stanley steam cars, and while rated at just 20 horsepower, the engine is capable of developing over 100 horsepower. A windshield was an optional extra on initial purchase. More than 280 competitors took part in the annual Waimate Shears event over the weekend. Organisers say they were pleased with the event, with several participants continuing their success of previous years.
This year's Waimate Shears saw more than 200 people compete over the weekend in wool handling and shearing, with a further 80 competitors taking part in a speed shear event. Now in its 54th year, the event was first held in 1968 and has been growing in popularity over the last few years, attracting participants from across the country. Organisers say they were pleased with the crowd of spectators, considering what was allowed under Alert Level 2 guidelines. This year saw what is believed to be a world first, with 4 women taking part in an invitational women's blade grade. And another world first was Tony Dobbs of Fairley adding yet another notch to his already 100 blade shearing titles by winning the open grade in the men's category. Troy Piper of Cheviot won the New Zealand Winter Comb shearing title, and it was no surprise that world champion wool handler Joel Hanare claimed yet another open wool handling win over the weekend. In Waimate, the South Today.
An application has been made to demolish a 120-year-old house in Dunedin to make way for a block of flats. The dilapidated two-storey building on High Street is to be bowled over to make way for 2 blocks of flats housing a total of 9 units. However, passers-by may not notice much change, with the new flats designed to look very much like the original building. Council staff are recommending that consent for the demolition be granted as long as the front block of units are built within 2 years of demolition. A ploughed field next to a school just north of Ashburton is being turned into a native reserve. Pupils from Fearton School have been busy replanting the area with the type of native species that grew there 200 years ago.
School pupils have started turning this dry, dusty field, which sits right next to Fearton School just north of Ashburton, into a native reserve. Helping out is Angela Cushney of the Kanuka Mid-Canterbury Regeneration Trust, who has helped deciding which species go where, so as to create a variety of different dryland ecosystems.
So all the plants that are going in the ground there are to create habitat and food and places to camouflage for lizards. Over further we've got some dryland shrub areas, and out further we've got some of the taller native species.
The land belongs to agriculture and fishing giant Tallies, and once the trees and shrubs have had a chance to grow, they'll provide an outdoor environment for school children to learn about the native vegetation that once covered mid-Canterbury.
So we're creating some little corridors, little pathways through the different gardens, and there's going to be a circle area in the middle which is essentially going to be an outdoor classroom.
Now, let's tap our peg down. I think the best way to tap the peg down is like that. You have a go with that. So that this wants to be upside down. Curvy. That's it. Perfect.
The native plants covered a range of 30 different native species, which were brought in by nurseryman Steve Brailsford, who says the reserve will also be of benefit to local crops.
This is a really good moth plant. Moths really like that. Teaching them about plant communities that natives actually combine together to provide resources for the environment. And then they can come and monitor the insects here, they can do some studies in here. And the benefit when we put these plants in for the insects that will help the farmers, will support a whole lot of insects in here that will help pollinate crops and will actually predate pests out there.
About 200,000 native plants are planted across Canterbury each year, with some going into revegetation projects such as this. Near Canterbury, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, plans for the new Beaumont Bridge are taking shape, and we gain insight into global COVID-19 vaccine developments. Ka kite akwane.
Inside are all sorts of innovations from all over China.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
No mai nō, welcome back. Work on a new two-lane Beaumont bridge is set to start before the end of the year. Christchurch construction company HEB Construction has been awarded the $25 million contract to build a new bridge at Beaumont. At 195 metres long, the bridge will be constructed of curved steel girders, supported by 4 piers and sit about 12 metres above the average river level. The current single-lane bridge was built in 1887 and is one of the last wrought iron bridges remaining on the national highway network. The old bridge will remain for pedestrians and cyclists. Kurt Kraus is an infectious diseases physician and professor of biochemistry at the University of Otago. He's kept check on global COVID-19 vaccine developments and joins Daryl Baser via Zoom to discuss how drug companies have rushed to get vaccines into health professionals' hands.
Kia ora, Professor Kraus. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for asking me.
Firstly, for viewers who might not know of your expertise, what's your background in relation to the global fight against COVID?
Originally, I'm from the United States, and when I was there, I trained as a medic and with particular specialty in infectious diseases, and actually practiced medicine for about 20 years before moving to New Zealand. At the time, or sort of intermittent with doing the medical training, I also did a PhD in physical chemistry with a particular specialty at looking at proteins, protein structure, and protein function.
It seems that many vaccines were produced at breakneck speed. Are there any inherent risks with that?
Well, a lot of people say that about the COVID vaccine, right? People say, gosh, these vaccines came about so quickly. And they did. I mean, to be fair, when the outbreak happened in 2020 and in early 2021, we were having vaccines get approved. But if you look at it a little more closely, it's actually not as quick as, I mean, it's very, very quick, but it's maybe not so much of a surprise. And it's not that much of a surprise for a few very clear reasons. One of them is, we've been working on coronavirus vaccines actually for a while. First off, coronavirus is not new to people. There are 4 coronaviruses that cause sort of common cold type symptoms that people deal with on a regular basis. The other thing is, one of the things that holds up, particularly the phase 3 trials, is patient enrollment. If you're developing a new vaccine for measles or mumps, or a new vaccine for another kind of virus, you have to have a whole bunch of cases. In the original studies, phase 3 trials were having, tens of thousands of people. I think it was 45,000 in the original BioNTech vaccine study, for example. Well, it's not hard to recruit in 2020 for SARS phase 3 trials, right? Because of the global pandemic, there were so many, hundreds of thousands of cases, and people were very interested in being involved. So it was quite easy to recruit. So that's, now we're up to sort of the third reason. The other reason is, one of the biggest things that holds medical research back is you've got to spend over half your time raising money.
There's also new developments with antibody drugs and pills. How does the antibody, as a layman, what's the difference between the vaccine and an antibody pill?
Oh, that's a really good question. So vaccines, you're basically generally providing the body with a small piece of whatever it is you're trying to vaccinate against, a small piece of the bacteria or a small piece of the virus, and you train your immune system to go for it. You're kind of saying, look, this is something that I want you to be able to get rid of. I'm giving you a piece of it. It's inactive. It can't cause you any harm, but I want you to train your immune cells to go after it. And the way our body does this kind of training is, we make antibodies which bind to the virus, or which bind to bacteria, and we can clear those microorganisms out of our system. Or we train a certain kind of immune cells to go and find cells that are infected with viruses and kill them. So we do this kind of training normally. And normally, if you have, say, a natural viral infection, you'll make a whole host of different antibodies against that virus. And so the vaccine provides multiple antibodies and multiple cell types to go out and prevent the infection. Now, monoclonal antibodies are different. What a monoclonal antibody is one of those, the drug company or the scientific lab will choose one of the antibodies that you would get in a response to a viral infection. You pick just one very specific one, and you decide, we're going to make that one. We're going to make that antibody, which is it's a protein molecule. It's a protein molecule that binds tightly to the virus. We're going to make it and purify it, and then we're going to give it to people. And antibodies have a lifetime. So, Daryl, if I gave you an injection of antibody, it would flow through your system for several weeks. And while it's there, if you happen to be exposed to coronavirus, it can bind right away. So it kind of gives you a head start. Right away, you're able to bind to coronavirus and then clear it out of your system.
There is light on the horizon and at the end of the tunnel. Professor Kurt Krause, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
After the break on the south today, Wanaka's Ruby Island jetty gets a revamp, and we check out the rather wet early week's weather. Hea koko ake nei.
Inside are all sorts of innovations from all over China.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
What have you got? Okay. Chicks World, party time, excellent.
Love it!
Chicks World. Chicks World. Right.
Hoki mai anō. Access to Ruby Island on Lake Wanaka has just gotten a lot easier thanks to the return of a refurbished jetty. The jetty was removed 3 weeks ago for repairs and renovations after 20 years in the water. A crane was used to return it to the lake waters, and it was then towed to the island by boat. Engineers who undertook the repairs say the jetty is now much safer and more user-friendly, with added improvements such as a non-slip deck. The repairs are estimated to have cost about $40,000. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South today. Lourdes refurbished historic railway station has been reopened to the public. Now in their 54th year, the Waimate Shares have continued their success. And youngsters and adults have turned an Ashburton field into native reserve. And now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT, we have Barry with us this evening. Kia ora, Barry.
Hello, Simon. Hundreds of thousands of education and health staff, including teachers, GPs, pharmacists and nurses, will need to be fully vaccinated in the coming months or face losing their jobs. And that was the main message that the government delivered today at their 4 p.m. briefing, along with the alert levels, which there's no change to those. Auckland's still at 3 and we're at 2. So, but some more information around that. And talking of politics, Team Dunedin, party politics is out, but Councillor Jules Radich is all on for a team ticket set to shake up the Dunedin City Council elections next year.
All right.
So a number of people have put their hat in the ring, so we have more details on that. So yes, the DCC or the local body elections, some interest in that and moves are happening, so look out for that. The other thing, on Saturday we had a picture page of the Beatles, their 1964 concert at the town hall in Dunedin. And that sparked a lot of memories from people that were at that concert. And they wrote in to us and gave us some recollections, including a policeman, Dave Hughes, who was in the front row at the edge of the stage, protecting the Beatles from the throng of a very excited audience. So he gives us his recollections of that. So it's pretty interesting. The other thing, this morning we had a story about the South Island should be protected with COVID. We should shut down our borders, etc. So we took that to southern leaders and got their views on whether that would work a lot or not. Mixed views on that, but interesting story.
Be interesting to see them. Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, thank you.
And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Map.
Looking at the situation, a very cold southerly airflow chills the region for a couple of days. Snow is likely inland on the hills, and there's a risk of winds near gale force about the coasts. Over to the northwest of the South Island, rain and 13 degrees for both Westport and Greymouth. It's similar at the top of the island, Nelson on 14, Blenheim on 15 degrees, while both wet, Nelson's showers may be a little lighter. But it's heavy rain down the Canterbury coast, Kaikoura reaching 14 degrees, Christchurch and Ashburton only making it to 11. Looking at the southern towns, the Catlins are in for southwesterly gales and rain with a high of 8 degrees. The other 3 centres can all expect strong southwesterlies with rain too, with a high of just 7. Travelling westwards to the Central Lakes region, Wanaka and Alexandra can expect gusty southwesterlies, showers and a high of 8 degrees, not 21 I promise. Queenstown should look out for those southwesterlies too and bring snow showers and a high, if we can call it that, of just 5 degrees. Single figures for all the northern towns along the coast, Timaru and Oamaru, and for gusty southerlies, rain and a high of 9 degrees. It's even colder inland with Twizel and Omarama expecting gusty southwesterlies, snow showers and a high of 6. In Dunedin, there's rain tonight with cold southerlies and an overnight low of 6. Early periods of rain tomorrow will turn into showers by the afternoon. It'll be very cold with strong gusty southerly winds bringing a high of 8 and a low of 5. The showers should start clearing during the day on Wednesday with very cold, strong southwesterly winds slowly decreasing. A high of 9 and a low of 4 degrees. And in Invercargill, rain here tonight as well, with cold southerlies and an overnight low of 5. Cloudy with showers tomorrow and some hail possible. Be prepared for strong, very cold southerly winds, a high of 8 and a low of 5 degrees. And things should clear here over Wednesday as well, a high of 9 and a low of 4. And that's the news this Monday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz, and you can follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe to be notified of that southern news as it happens. Nō reira, kia pai te pō, ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.